Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cliff Yates Show podcast. And if you are listening or watching on my YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. That does help. And if you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, audio only, later, go over to YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the YouTube channel. See that I have a face for radio. Going with the title of the thumbnail that I put up, transforming my cop life into motivational creator. Is that what I am? I think that's what I'm actually doing right now. I don't know if it's what I am when I consider all the roles that I've played, and probably you have too. I'm crazy motivated still at this age in my life, 67, crazy motivated. And if you're listening, I got a feeling maybe you are too, or you want to be. So welcome. Good to be talking with you, because if you're listening, that means you can still foam up a mirror. You can still steam up a mirror with your breath, so you can still make positive changes in your life. You can still have a positive impact on other people. I was really bolstered today in the gym. You see my blue line flag and my police motif behind me. And I have so many new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and following the podcast platform. So some of you are really, really new. Yes, I was a cop for 35 years. For many years, I was a cop by day, comedian by night, dual jobs. Also did some acting and producing, small independent films. But I really started doing this and loving doing this kind of thing, creating, back when I was in high school. I'm talking 15, 16 years old. So over 50 years ago, and I'll give an example. When I was 14 or 15, I just loved using my dad's Super 8 millimeter video camera. And, back in those days, you couldn't really edit. Well, there was a time you could get one of those editors where you could put the reel to reel, and then you could overlay the film and you could cut and splice together, and it would be a little window so you could watch what you're splicing. I didn't have one of those. I couldn't afford one of those. I was 14, 15 years old. Wasn't working yet. Didn't start till I was 16 years old. But I loved using my dad's Super 8 millimeter video camera, and he was fine with letting me use it and gave me the film. And I was actually editing back then. I would actually shoot. I would shoot my scenes. I had people in the neighborhood that I would bring them over. I put them in suit coats, my fellow students, and I would give them a shotgun, and I would film them walking towards the kitchen door inside my house. And then I would stop filming, knowing that after this was developed, it would cut to the next exposed film. And so then I would run outside, and then I would give them a signal, and then they would start coming through the door from the kitchen with the shotguns out into the driveway. And so here I was really editing on the go. And I say that just to say how amazing it is now that we can edit. I mean, the editing software that is available to us, even free, is some of the stuff that had the capabilities of a major film studio 30, 40 years ago. We are able to do that in our own homes. And even on the go in our cell phone, we can do these kind of cuts and edits and putting in music and adding sound effects and controlling the sound of voices and music and sound when it breaks in, breaks out, fades in, fades out. These are things that we couldn't do when I was 50 years ago when I was 15. So, but even back then, I was creating with this Super 8 millimeter video camera. But I loved doing it. So I loved doing that. Now, for some reason, my dad always had, and maybe that was part of his little idiosyncrasies too, he always had tape recorders around. And so with different microphones, and I would get fascinated by these different microphones, and, the little ones you clip on, even back 50 years ago, and they had little screens on them. So I was fascinated with these microphones. In high school, I wanted to play sports so damn bad, but I just couldn't make the football team. I tried out. I played junior varsity because you could play. They put everybody on the team, basically. And so I got my ass whooped on the practice field every single week because I just couldn't put on weight. I was very slight of build, as they would say, very, very skinny. Made fun of because of my skinniness, poked fun at, pushed around. But I wanted to play. I had so many friends on the football team that I really loved hanging around with, and I loved the whole town was a football town. I mean, talk about Friday night lights. Our village of Caledonia in upstate New York, it was the epitome of the Friday night lights culture. I mean, the whole town revolved around our football team and the football culture of the school. And, well, sports in general. We had a great wrestling team. We had a great basketball team. But the football team, if you think about this, 5 years in a row, 8 game seasons, never lost. When I was in high school, 40-0. When you went to a Caledonia Mumford Central School football game, it was expected you were going to win. When you think so, after 2 or 3 years of never losing one game, we were expected to win and really targeted and accused of cheating and all sorts of things because of our winning streak. And that was the culture of the town. I actually got used, that was it. We were champions. Always were the champions. We were Section 5 champions. The wrestling team became champions, Section 5 champions. You get used to being in that culture of winning. And, of course, individually, I was not winning when I tried out for the football team. I got beat up bad. But something I was doing, I was watching these talk shows with my mom all the time, 15 years old, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Johnny Carson, always seeing these stand-up comedians. For someone always infatuated with these comedians, so I was always memorizing their routines. And so that I would get to school and I would start doing crazy stuff in the lunchroom, and then I got people's attention. I guess maybe it was an ego thing that I wanted to make people laugh. My goal, I remember one of my best friends, Jerry Forsyth, I mean, if I could just, during lunchtime when we all sat together, if I could just have him spit up milk through his nose, then I did my job as a comedian. And so I would try to time my funny remarks when he was taking a drink. And God, those were just great memories. It's making me laugh right now. Think of him, rest in peace, Jerry Forsyth, one of my best friends. But to make him spit up his milk, that was my goal for the lunchroom. But I would do these things, and then I would actually do these comedy routines, in the corner of the lunchroom. And then eventually people would ask teachers if I could have a few minutes at the end of class to do my comedy, which was not my comedy. It was routines that I was memorizing. Little did I know, later in life, moving to California, you realize you just don't do that. You don't take somebody else's routine, copy it, and then that's a no-no. So, of course, I learned before I did any professional stand-up comedy, I learned that in California. But I'm in high school. I'm just trying to make the class laugh and people in the lunchroom laugh. But I was already into performing then. That's why I would encourage you, which I should have really locked on, or someone should have told me back then, listen, take some of the gifts that God has given you and exploit those gifts to the best that you can. I wanted to be a great football player and be on the football team. My natural gifts did not lend me to fulfilling that dream, and it never happened. Not that I could have probably, if I had tried earlier to gain weight, gain more muscle, I probably could have been a contributing person on the football team, but no one was actually coaching me or telling me to until later. I did have one of the football coaches, he encouraged me, get down here, lift these weights, start from where you are. Rome was not built in a day. Thank you, Frank Ruane, rest in peace, another great influencer of my life back then, trying to get me down to the weight room. Just get down here and start lifting some weights. That really, really got me started and interested in bodybuilding, powerlifting, and trying to get bigger and see what I could do to gain weight. And that put me on the road that I'm still on today. I just left the gym today, and I was bolstered. I started to say earlier that I was bolstered in my one of my missions to really, I'm certified health coach now, but part of my mission now is really I want to coach retired peace officers into health and strength. So I met up with an anti-terrorist guy who worked for the federal government, and I also a retired FBI guy who are just, these guys are the epitome of strength and health. in their late 50s, I could tell. But they are in the gym, man. They're getting it on. One guy was sweating his ass off. He was getting it done. The other guy was pounding some heavy weights, and I got introduced to these two guys by Paul, a trainer in my gym down there at South Beach Fitness, and kudos to South Beach Fitness that I'm able to walk to every day to get my workout in and train in. But high school, it all started. But I had wanted, and I was saying earlier, I want to encourage you to you have definitely got some God-gifted talents that were given to you. You can exploit, because when you do that, you'll take your natural talent, God-gifted, and now you'll start disciplining yourself with training, learning, practicing, and you're just going to have a positive impact on yourself and other people. And you're going to be fulfilled because you're going to be making progress towards a worthy goal. That's what gives us fulfillment. And that's really what my channel is about, although I get tempted always to really comment on what's going on in the world. I mean, we can't put our heads in the sand. But all in all, do what we can do individually and even politically what we can do. We can learn, educate ourselves on candidates, and vote who we want to vote for. Exploit those freedoms that we've been given by God and supported by our Constitution of the great United States of America. And so that got me on the high school, actually got me into performing and realizing that's what I really love to do. And I didn't make the basketball team either. Didn't make it. Tried, practiced. I thought, well, I can do good. My dad put up a basketball hoop in my driveway, and we had a beautiful paved driveway. Neighborhood kids would come over all the time to play basketball. And so I was able to practice hour after hour. Still producing content, really. I had a ladder at the back of I was already producing shows, right? Even when I was practicing basketball. I had a ladder, and on top of that ladder, my dad, for some reason, he had bought a light bar about 3 feet long that had, I think, 4 light inputs in it. So I put some big floodlight bulbs in that thing, and then I took extension cords, and I put this at the back end of the driveway, and I put that light bar on a step ladder, and I lit up that basketball court, our driveway. And I would take film there at night, and I would practice it. And I would practice until midnight, shooting baskets from all over. And I would play horse with the neighbors and my dad, and I became very good at shooting baskets. I was really confident I was going to make the basketball team. There's no doubt. I did what I needed to do. I practiced. I got very good at shooting. Now, all I can think of, I did not make the team. But... And I'm thinking it was probably because I focused everything on shooting baskets because that's all I knew that I could do. No one ever trained me, or I never inquired or asked anybody to train me in guarding or what you have to do to be a guard or to guard. I think that's where I fell down and didn't make the team, maybe in the scrimmage. I didn't guard well enough. So, and I don't think I exploited enough my shooting ability, although I know I hit several baskets during the tryouts. But I didn't get the job, all right? I did not make the team, as we used to say. Did you make the team? Didn't make the team again. It just kicked me in the gut. Now, the coach knew that I did comedy in front of the class. He knew I did these things in the lunchroom. The teachers would see you really kind of performing. So he knew I had a proclivity for that. Maybe I had already done, a couple of these school plays. Maybe, I don't know, but he said he offered me, not a job, but he offered me to be part of the team calling the home games. Do you want to call the home games? What? Yeah, we're going to set up a microphone between the bleachers, and you're going to call the home games. What? So what turned out to be a disappointment, I was even more excited to be calling the games than I would have been to make the team. So sometimes life's denials, or maybe not denials at all, but maybe they're just life's postponements. And sometimes, what's the Garth Brooks song? Thank God for unanswered prayers, because something better is coming along. And you should have that attitude as you go forward in life. Yeah, that was disappointing. But you know what? Something better is coming along, and I'm supposed to be available for that. And if I had made that, I wouldn't be available. What a great thing. Thank you, Lord. That's the attitude that'll get you the opportunities and the availability to take advantage of those opportunities. So I was, but anyways, I was, I saw that performing was my thing. That's what I wanted to do. Well, sports is kind of performing, right? I really wanted to be on the sports team. But I was so happy to be calling the games. I loved being on that mic during Friday night home basketball games. There couldn't be enough home games. I mean, I would be so disappointed when the season ended. And of course, I made, as I'm calling these plays and pissing off the opposing spectators by, calling out their team when they traveled. You're walking, you're caught. They would just wanted to kill me. But of course, everybody on the basketball team and our fans loved it. And so I was entertaining them. So being on the mic every Friday. So I started back. So 50 years ago, I guess you could say I was a motivational creator. Of course, there was no title of such as there is today. But there is. And I did transition even when I was back home. I mean, I knew stand-up comedians from watching Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Johnny Carson. So I knew who they were and what they did. I didn't know there was any avenue for that. I mean, my guidance counselor would call me in and tell me how disruptive I was and that I should change my ways if I wanted to be successful in anything. He should have called me in and said, "Hey, you're causing a ruckus and you're making everybody laugh in the classroom. There's a job for you. It's called stand-up comedy, a comedian, actor." But no, I didn't get that type of encouragement at all. I was told you were probably going to be kicked out if you don't tone it down. And then I tried out for 2 plays in high school, and I got picked for those high school plays. I made the team, right? The drama club team. I wasn't even in the drama club. I know we had a drama club. Wonder why I wasn't in the drama club. I think I was too busy trying out for the sports team. But I should have been in the drama club because the drama club put on the plays. I auditioned for the plays, and I got picked. Yay! All of a sudden, I got picked. Why? Because I was in the avenue that related to my God-given talents. What God had given me the ability and talent to do. Now I was pursuing that. And that's a key that no one tells us when we're that young. And so I love doing those plays. Oh my goodness. I was Mr. Darling in Peter Pan. And then I forgot my other role in The Prisoner of Second Avenue, Neil Simon play. But man, I really loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved rehearsing. I loved being in the play, performing, have people come to the play. I loved, after the play was over, meeting everybody outside in the halls. I mean, I still remember those moments, coming in, still in makeup as Mr. Darling from Peter Pan, and still meeting the parents, my parents. Everybody's dressed up for theater night at the high school. So I loved that part of it. I loved the after party with the crew and all of us actors in those plays. I mean, I loved everything about that. And even when I was in LA and I was just either trying out for small bit parts or even just going after a background spot, I loved every part of it. I loved when I would audition and didn't get the parts. I mean, I counted my audition as the part. So I did the best preparation I could for the audition. This is my performance, the audition. If I don't get the next phase, that's okay. I was a success in the audition part, and I would drop it. I wouldn't take that negativity of not making or getting picked for that part or my belief in it. Sometimes you wouldn't know right then, right? But I would just, what I would know, you wouldn't know right then. So I remember going to Hollywood, driving 30, 40 minutes, go in for an audition, had my sides, had them pretty much memorized. I would do my performance for the audition. Hi, thank you for having me and seeing me. And then on the way out, I remember I consciously would rip up those sides, the lines that I would rip them up, throw them in the garbage as a symbolic gesture to me to let it go, on to the next thing, on to the next audition. Wait, I got a comment here by Price Casey. When the state wouldn't pay for your name. I don't know what that means. When the state wouldn't pay for your name. Okay, well, hey, it's a comment. I don't care. I love all comments now. You know why? Because they actually help the channel. Even the negative comments, it tells the algorithm of YouTube somebody is interacting with the show. So that's okay. I even take the negative comments now. But I did what Gary V is a marketing genius, and you can catch him. He has Tea with Gary V. So he is put off. He doesn't pay attention to negative comments. But he says you got to do both. You got to not pay attention to the positive comments too, and because it's all shit you shouldn't pay attention to. Ed Shoemaker, thank you, my brother. All right. Thanks for commenting. You're awesome. And where was I? Was I still in high school? Was I still doing the plays? Yeah, I was still doing the plays. So where was I? Okay, my transformation. But before I could get to the, I got another comment from Mr. Shoemaker. All right. Fixing the Kennedy Fed. Yeah. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, man. We need you. We need you doing that. Absolutely. RFK Jr. Listen, it's all about make America healthy again, my brother. So thank you very much for that comment, because we all can play a part in that. Pay attention to what we're eating, what they're feeding us. Get the poisons out, and you can't depend on the stores, the government, or anybody else to take care of you. We got to take care of ourselves. I'm doing it. I want you to do it, and we all can do it. So make those changes. That's what this whole channel is all about and what I'm talking about today, along with transforming from the police career to the motivational creator. Well, first I had to get my first police job, and that was in upstate New York, Livingston County Sheriff's Department, upstate New York, 20 deputies. Can you imagine? I went to college for 2 years, criminal justice, because, what I was getting to earlier was I knew about what a comedian did because I saw them on TV. But there was no avenue in my little town. There was no comedy clubs. Even in Rochester, New York in the 1970s, I didn't know of any comedy clubs. Maybe they had them. I didn't know any comedians or what you should do. I didn't know how to write comedy. But I did get hired. I got hired, a paid gig after high school, because in my graduation party, I performed for the band that was performing for our graduation party, 1975. And afterwards, the band says, hey, how would you like to come around with us? And, during our break, we have a 15-minute break, you do your comedy. We'll give you $50. That was pretty good back then, 1976. $50 every time for me to do 15 minutes of comedy. And I did that for about 6 months. And then I think they realized this guy has no other material. And so they didn't hire me anymore. But, hey, for 6 months, I was doing 1 or 2 gigs a month with this band. Professional comedian, didn't even know that there was such a career. But I was doing it right then. But, the only avenue I saw for work, really, at the time for that next level, I'm 20 years old, going to Monroe Community College, taking criminal justice. My dad had been a cop, was still a cop at that time. My uncle was a cop. And so that was the avenue. And I saw how much fun police were having. My cop relatives would come over, have coffee at the kitchen table, tell amazing stories, different stories all the time, and just laugh their asses off over things that would happen to them and to other people. And so I thought, well, that's a fun job. Every day you don't know what's going to happen. And I know what it's all about. My dad at the time was chief of police in the little village where I grew up. And so that's the career path I took. Although at times, even though I got hired full-time eventually, age 21, Livingston County Sheriff, where I grew up, Livingston County. I still was doing comedy at, retirement parties and different events that the department sometime would invite me. Hey, would you like to do your comedy? So I would still do it, at weddings and retirement parties. So I was still doing a little bit of it. But I had this I don't know why I had this urge in me to go to Los Angeles. Well, not really to go to Los Angeles. For some reason, I loved all the LA sports teams. I loved the Raiders. I loved the Lakers, back to the original Lakers in the 1970s, right? I'm nowhere. I had no inkling that I would ever go to LA I had no desire upon graduating from high school to go to Los Angeles. So although Mr. Collins, my science teacher, did tell me, you should go to LA and pursue a career in entertainment. But I had no idea that would ever happen. So the first inner drive that I think that God put on my heart was to just go to a large metropolitan police department. So while I was working in upstate New York at the Livingston County Sheriff's Department, I would think about going to New York City. I would read these books in New York City. LAPD, oh my goodness, choir practice. And Joseph Wambaugh books, oh my goodness, that would be great to go to work in a city. When I'm working Livingston County, I'm out somewhere. Sometimes I'm working the midnight shift and I don't see a car for 2 hours. If you want to talk about rural, that is rural. So I got it in my heart to go to a big metropolitan PD. And so I eventually took the New York City police test. And then I saw in a police magazine an advertisement, ride the strip, we pay the gas. And it was LA Sheriff's Department. Call 1-800-LASD. LA Sheriff. All right. And then I saw an ad for LAPD. So I put an application into LAPD too. So then I got a call from LAPD. Well, listen, I'm going to give you the numbers here. You're a white guy. And so unless you got military and you scored 100 on the test, you need about a 105 because we are in an affirmative action phase and there's no way you're getting hired unless you could score over 100. And so they pretty much told me, this is not going to happen. Now, the LA Sheriff's Department didn't tell me that. They gave me a application package. I sent it in, and I told my sheriff about it, and he had been out to LA when the LA Sheriff had hosted a Major Cities Chief Conference, and LA Sheriff was invited. The Livingston County Sheriff went out there to attend this Chiefs Conference. Maybe it was a Sheriff's Conference. I don't know why he would go to a Major Cities Chief Conference, but he went out to LA, and when he came back, he didn't tell me about it, but later on when I was applying, and I told him, I'm applying to LA Sheriff. He goes, LA Sheriff, that's the best department in the country. You should do this. And if you don't make it, you have a job here. But I think this would be great for you. That's a great organization. He says, I met the sheriff and it's unbelievable. It's amazing. And so I had his support. You need an advocate in everything you do. So I felt very honored to have the support of my sheriff. And so I went out. Long story short, I went through the testing process, joined the LA County Sheriff's Department, had a long career as an LA Sheriff's Deputy, rose to the rank of sergeant. And during those times, I took classes and became a stand-up comedian, I guess you could say professionally. I learned how to write my own material. I went to writing classes for stand-up comedy when I was in the jails. And so while I was in the LA County Jail, after your first year, it can get very monotonous and boring where I was working. And so I took writing classes and I learned how to write my own material. And I had a lot of encouragement and support from other comedians who were working comedians. And when you're around LA, you meet a lot of headlining comedians that travel around the country to comedy clubs. But when they're in LA, they're doing actually free gigs. Really, they call them showcase clubs. Any club within 60 miles of LA really is showcase clubs. They don't have to pay their people, but a Smittens, maybe, you might get $100, $50. But they already know Tim Allen's coming. Andrew Dice Clay is coming. Eddie Murphy's going to drop by tonight and do a set because he wants to try out material. They don't need to pay a headliner to be in these showcase clubs, and tourists know that, so the places are always packed. The Improvs and the Laugh Factories and the Comedy Stores that I all went to and started honing my craft. But there came a time when I had to make a decision about that creative decision. Do I leave the Sheriff's Department and pursue this full time? I did have inklings to do that, but I did make the decision to stick full time with the police job and do stand-up comedy. So I already, even Gary Vee says, marketing genius Gary Vee, if you don't know who he is, check him out. Gayvee. And he always, when people ask him, should I niche down to this? Should I focus more? He goes, and do that and. So I was already doing that back then. I was doing my police work and comedy. You know, I found a way to do it. When I got to the point where people were offering me jobs to do charity events, hey, we got a little budget here. Can you come and do an hour of comedy? Well, I already knew that I was getting to the point in my stand-up career where I was an opener. And how the comedy sequence works is you got an MC, does 15 minutes, then you got an opening act called the feature. They do 20 to 30, somewhere right in the sweet spot of 25 minutes, 20 to 30. Then the headliner does 45 to an hour, and that's how it's set up. So you got to make sure you can't be even pursuing a headlining job until you can do, you need a good hour and a half of solid material before you even apply for that headlining job. I had nowhere near that material, so even though people were starting to offer me these charity gigs that I was doing for free, I knew I couldn't do more than about 20 minutes of solid material. So then I would offer jobs to my headlining friends. And then people would come up with budgets and they would say, man, we got $1,000. And say, wow. So then I would offer my headlining friends from the comedy clubs, hey, would you mind coming and doing this police charity? And I mean, it'll pay $1,000. I need you to do like 35 minutes, 1,000. Because anywhere within LA, there really wasn't any paying gigs to speak of. So you can get big corporate gigs in the rest of the country. And now comedians make a great living doing the cruise ships. But that wasn't even a thing back then. When I was doing stand-up, it was the comedy circuit. It was the comedy clubs that you could make your money at. And of course, corporate gigs were the big thing. So now my comedian buddies that I would meet, they're like, wow, you're putting money in my pocket as an opener. You know, no opener has ever put money in my pocket and turned me on to high-paying gigs. And so they started asking me if I would open for them on the road. So I could actually take time off from my police work when I could, if I could arrange it, and then I would end up getting a paid gig as a feature act to a major headliner, and I would get exposure to these are main circuit comedy clubs, the big stages, as they would say. I had that opportunity that was made to me. Why? Because I was reaching out to other people, supporting other people. I was taking money not just for myself. Most of the time on those charity gigs that for police departments, I was giving that to the headliner that would ask, and I did it for the charity. And so eventually there would be a mix of charity and just kind of a corporate police events they would ask me. And so then one of my mentor, Mike Marino, would say, listen, you've been doing this long enough. You are to the level now. You shouldn't be doing these things for free anymore. You need to start charging. So then I would create a budget, and I would say, okay, we need $1,500. Here it is. And then I would give Mike Marino or whatever headliner, I would vary it. I would sometimes give them 12. I would take 300, or I would give them, maybe it would be $2,000. I would take 500 and I would give them 1,500. I mean, they're doing the 40 minutes to an hour. And so I was happy to give them. And then one gig led to another gig. And then those headliners, mostly Mike Marino, would just get me on the road to some of these great clubs, which would introduce me to the booking agents, and then I would develop my own relationship with them, and then they would call me to ask if I would feature for this other headliner. Am I available for this? And so work begets work, one of those principles and values that we learn, share, and talk about in personal growth and personal development. But that's how I was able to do cop by day, comedian by night, and it became profitable because when you're adding value, that's how you get paid. The market will pay you based on the value you bring to the marketplace. Talking about value to the marketplace now, not value to family, not value to friends. We're talking about value to the marketplace. Small town to LA. That was not easy to do. So I would encourage anybody out there thinking about making the big move. I can't move from my little small town here. Believe me, when I made that decision to take the LA sheriff's job, that was something I did on a spur of the moment. All the way up until I got the phone call, I really hadn't made a decision, because during that time, when I knew that was the next step, I was going to be getting the phone call, yay or nay, after flying to LA twice, background investigation, taking the test, physical agility, first phase medical. It takes 6 months, 8 months process to get to that point where you might get the phone call to be hired. Your background investigator tells you your next phone call is going to be, you got the job, so be ready. So people, my friends, family, although my parents and my grandmother, my mom was actually born in San Diego. My grandmother had lived in LA for many years, and so she was so supportive. Oh, that would be great. You would love Los Angeles. And my parents were just always supportive. Hey, whatever you want to do, we are behind you. This would be very exciting. But friends, close friends, people I worked with on the Livingston County Sheriff's Department were, and people do this out of love and care for you. They were, you may want to think twice about doing this. I mean, you got a great job here. You have a great reputation here. You've been here for 5 years. Are you going to throw that all away? I mean, you know what? You got a good future here in this department. Now you're going to start over again, going out to LA. Maybe you won't make it. I mean, what if something happens? You've worked 5 years here. When are we going to see you again? Don't you have close friends? You have this, you have that. This is out of love and caring. So you have to be careful of those voices that are going to come around you when you make those big decisions, or you're thinking about making them. Sometimes you got to keep those close to your heart. So when God puts something on your heart to do, to take that next step, only you know that desire is in your heart, and you want to feed that. Your desire to leave everything behind and go to Broadway and pursue a career as a dancer is only in your heart. It's not in your family's. It's not in your friends and family. So they don't see it and or feel it. And that's why their concern and their comments are probably going to be of a cautious one, if not a discouraging message that you really can't afford to listen to, because you need to be focused on what you wanted to do, because your mind is going to tell you, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I better consider not doing this. So I am telling you, I had all these thoughts. I almost didn't do it. I would trick myself into saying, I'm only going to do this for 2 years and I can always come back. So the sheriff said I'm going to come back. I'm just going out for 2 years to get some experience in a large place. And so I would trick myself. Even then, it was hard. I have to tell you, it was the hardest thing to do, but I had the drive to do it. I mean, it was in my heart to do. So to leave everything, throw it all in a car, to drive away with family and friends waving in that rear view mirror is so hard to do. Not easy. Doesn't seem like the right decision right away. As a matter of fact, it really didn't, except, it takes really a few years before that decision sets in that this was the right move to make. Things start to happen. You think, I wouldn't change a thing. So I encourage you, take that move. DM me, email me. I will encourage you. I will support you, because life will be so much grander that you took that opportunity. Even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. It's still going to change who you are. It's going to shape your future in a way you can't even visualize or imagine. So I'm glad I made the big move, and that got me into. So now you can see there's been a track record of this, a motivational creator. Doing the comedy, then, I started realizing after taking a class from Judy Carter, we were in Big Bear at a retreat, and where they talked about if you have a following of friends and they want to come see you perform, I mean, they can either come to the comedy store and see you and maybe wait 2 hours, go through 27 comedians that they didn't come to see you do your 3 to 5 minutes of open mic time, even though they've came specifically for you. They paid a big ticket just to see you for your 3 to 5 minutes. They got a babysitter just to see you. And so even if you're great, you can really wear your audience out. And so it was put to me, if you have a following of people, why not rent a theater yourself? Have those people pay you to see you. You do as much time as you want to do in a venue that you're renting, you control, you're in charge of the show. And now you have the budget to either pay you, or what I would do is, just like I did with these events, I would rent the theater. And some of these places I rented were big venues. I rented the Roxy on Sunset in West Hollywood, and I paid people paid their ticket price, and I, through that income, paid the theater back. And then I took the profits and I paid what I had to pay. You have to pay insurance. At the Roxy, made me hire 2 security guards. I hired an MC. I hired I can't remember his name, but he was the MC at the Arsenio Hall show. And I would pay a headliner because I knew I could only do 20 or 30 minutes. And man, that was just the way to go. Now my audience, I'm taking care of my audience. You have to take care of your people. So now I'm taking care of my audience. Now, and it's funny because I'm renting out these venues that are pretty well known, the Roxy on Sunset, the Hollywood Palladium. And so sometimes the venue is the star of the show to start with. And my fellow deputies and police contacts would say, "Wow, you're at the Roxy now? You must be really getting good." Oh yeah, I'm getting really good. I'm getting good at renting the theater out. So I rented the theater out, and I got a comment here from, all right, God bless you. Oh man, all right, prayers, my brother. Someone that's working for helping a hospital and getting their mom out of the hospital, and so anybody who's doing that for family, God bless you, and I support you. Direct message me. I'll support you any way I can. I'll encourage you. And thanks for leaving a comment. I really appreciate it. And so, renting the venues out. Now I'm taking care of my audience. That's what you got to do. You got to do that in life with your family, your friends. Take care of people, servant leadership. Take care of people that you come in contact. How can you serve them? And so doing so, they will want, or you'll be serviced. You will get served. Whatever you're out there serving, if you're out there serving love and encouragement, the world's going to start serving you love and encouragement. That's how it works. It's the law of, it's sowing and reaping for sure. But man, it's a law of compensation by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, right, it goes along with sowing and reaping. And so I was taking care of my audience. So now my audience was able to come. I knew exactly what kind of venue they were in, how they were going to be treated, what the ticket price was, what they were getting for that ticket price. They got to see me 20, 30 minutes. It got to the point where I would be the headliner. Then I was hiring an opener for myself. So I really couldn't, during my whole police career, I really couldn't, go on the road full time, because even as a feature and or a headliner, just because I couldn't get that amount of time off. And then by the time I retired, I really didn't want to do that. And before I retired in 2005, and I wish I would have kept it up, I actually started my own podcast in 2005 before anybody even heard of podcasting. And I did it on a platform that was called Blog Talk Radio. And there were no Spotify's or iTunes that I could get my content on. This is why there's never been a better time to be a content creator. No longer are we in the Super 8, era, and no one can see that but your family or friends. This podcast now is not only live on YouTube, it's also going to be an audio version to 7 or 8 different platforms, Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, that people are going to listen to it around the world. And I say that because I check my analytics and it shows me, this podcast was downloaded 18 times in Spain. It was downloaded 47 times in Italy. So there's never been a better time to be a creator of any kind. If you have value that you can create and put out to the world, do it, because now there are no more gatekeepers. There are no more excuses All there's left for you to do is the work, the creative work. If you want to be a creator of any kind, and you want to get your work out there, there's no more excuses. I'm sorry to tell you, if you're a lazy person, I have no sympathy for you. But if you want to get off your ass and get moving, I'm going to encourage you. And it's through these, it's through the police job and getting disgruntled with it later in my career, near the end. Actually, it was near the middle, because I turned my career around, because I turned my thoughts around, turned my actions around, turned my results around. And that's why I get so excited to share those principles and values with everybody else, because it's applicable. You can apply it across the board to any career, into any avenue of your life. You're not just going to be more successful and more fulfilling in your job. You're going to be more fulfilling and successful at home, with family, with friends, relatives, neighbors, right? Your attitude of gratitude is going to be infectious. What happened to you? I mean, you've changed, but for the better, and we appreciate it. Your family will appreciate you more. Your friends will appreciate you more. Why not become more, be better, regardless of what's happening around the world? Doesn't matter. Not going to affect what you can do in impacting others. And so because I became angry, disgruntled, I took that energy and I put it towards getting my real estate license. And then I learned from going to supposed sales training, and I've talked about this before, Jim Rohn, getting into Tony Robbins. And I took all that knowledge and I applied that to my next comedy venues. I applied that to my creative ventures. And I shared that information with my wife, who took the 30-day program with Tony Robbins. 2019, she goes with me to a live Tony Robbins seminar. My wife and I both walked the hot coals together. We're on the same page. We have the same visions for where we wanted to live. We had similar visions of a house, a home, on the sand, on the beach. Here we are in Florida, on the water, on the beach. I'll tell you, my wife, all goals that she wrote down during the past 15 years, she's made all her goals. And now, what do? Do you say, is this all there is? No, you make other goals and you start working towards them. That's what leads to fulfillment, is making progress towards a worthy goal. That's why this show is a culture of progress. Join. You won't be disappointed. But that got me into philosophy and motivations for creating a better life. And I'm so excited today. I mean, I'm never going to turn around and go in an opposite direction. I'm going to habituate more and more strategies, philosophies, and values that lead me towards worthy goals where it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody benefits. If I achieve my goals or I make progress, everybody will benefit. So that's how I made the transformation, everybody. And I continue to this day. And so going back to the time when I was on the mic in high school, calling those Friday night games, to doing stand-up comedy, taking that stage, grabbing the mic, to now able to, and I was talking about 2005, I did a podcast and no one even knew what that was. But I wish I would have continued doing it. I actually, at the time, I had trouble getting enough content, or I didn't have the talent to mine content wherever I could have. If I had those skills, I could have mined content and created a 1-hour show every week. So I found it hard at the time. Now I can do a daily show, an hour, and spend time with you because I get so much back from it. So that's how I made the transformation. And I'll tell you what, it's got me into physical health, and there's a whole other podcast I'm going to do about making ourselves healthy again and why we should do that. We don't want to be a burden in later years to our friends, to our family specifically. When I think about my mom as 89 years young, how she's going up and down those stairs at home and making herself healthy. She's on that treadmill still 3 days a week. Last week she was depressed. She goes, I haven't walked on the treadmill in over a week. I'm going to get back on it tomorrow. She's so motivated. And what has she done? It's the gift she's given to me, the rest of the family. She's so mobile. She's doing laundry. She's driving her car. She's strong. She keeps telling me, I'm trying to get stronger in my legs. I'm doing these squats. And I've had an impact on her watching. So now she watches what I watch. I had a medicine ball at our summer place. She goes, I want one of those balls. So she ordered her own medicine ball, and she does things with it, and she looks on YouTube online. She constantly makes herself better at technology and learning how to do things, how to access videos on YouTube, and how to make a search and what she should put in that search. And so it's all, listen, so I'm driven to achievement. I'll admit it right now. And not only am I crazy motivated, I'll unapologetically tell you that, but I want you to join up, be part of the community. I want to thank you for watching this episode. If you can think of anybody who might need or benefit from hearing these messages, share with somebody. And if you found any value in it at all, please leave a comment, share the video. I want you to please be part of the culture of progress. And that's where I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this right here on a positive note, as always, because from here, I'm heading to the tennis court. Even though I went to the gym this morning, I'm going to the tennis court. I don't know how true it is, but they have it on the marquee at the tennis club. And I heard it from someone who does YouTube videos, has a YouTube channel, and they do videos on longevity. And they had someone who was a neurosurgeon who said, yes, racket sports have been found to increase longevity, and there was a study to support that. Now the tennis club says any racket sports you play, like tennis, adds 9 years to your life. I'm going to check on that study to see if that's the case. But either way, it's a great message that we should be out there moving a lot, not just in the gym, not just with weights and progressive resistance, not just walking, but we need to play at something. Tennis is so great. I play a lot of doubles now at the tennis club with these guys. I'm playing with a guy today. He's 80 years old. He's going to be 81 in March. You would think the guy was 60 years old. He's an example. And he's not an anomaly at the club. There are probably 20 or 30 people 80 and above who are pretty active on the tennis court. And so I encourage you. I encourage myself. Thanks for being part of this community of progress. You know I love you. I'll see you in the next episode.